Good evening and welcome to the Lowell Planning Board meeting of June 16th. We have one public hearing on this evening and we have two pre-application matters. We have two matters listed under old business. To start off, the first matter will be a public hearing. This public hearing is 122 Western Avenue. A public hearing will be held to hear all interested persons relative to a repetitive petition application to the planning board by BPV Lowell, LLC, for the ability to construct 68 live/work artist units in an existing building located in the Artist Overlay District at the above listed address. On January 14, 2008, the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals took an unfavorable action, denying a special permit to construct 48 live/work units and denying a parking variance. In order for the Zoning Board of Appeals to consider the merits of this new application, the planning board must consent that the new application contains specific and material change from the first application. The planning board will take this vote at the conclusion of the public hearing. So basically, what happened was the Zoning Board of Appeals denied this petition back in January of '08, and now the matter comes back before this board. We have to make the finding that the new application has changed, specific and material change. If we make that finding, then the matter will be sent back to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a public hearing for their approval or their denial. So basically tonight, we just have to act whether the new plan's a material change. Having said that, may we hear the case for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, James Flood, 81 Bridge Street, representing BPV Lowell LLC. With me tonight is principal of the petitioner, Carl Fry. I think just for the record, if you'll recall, back in April of 2007, this board, and I think all of you were sitting, voted to recommend to the City Council that the property on Western Avenue be included in the Artist Overlay District. The City Council then acted upon your recommendation and unanimously approved this change, and the matter was forwarded to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for an amendment to the acre plan. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts did approve an amendment to the acre plan, allowing a maximum of up to 100 units at this property. As the notice stated, in November of 2007, we filed a request with the City of Lowell Board of Appeals for a special permit for 48 live-work spaces in C-Mill, which is a specific portion of the building. We also, at that time, requested a variance from the parking requirements, and also some of the original units were less than 750 square feet, which is required. The request was denied by the Board of Appeals. We filed a repetitive petition with the Board of Appeals, and we had a hearing last month. The new petition contains 68 units in 4 separate sections of the mill complex. We are not requesting a parking variance. The proposed plan conforms with all requirements of parking, and also all units now exceed 750 square feet. The Board of Appeals acted favorably on our request, and the matter has now been sent back to this board. As the notice said, we are asking, the only thing before this board tonight is whether the new petition contains specific and material changes from the original petition which allow us to go forward. I think that there's no question that we have made some changes, and we are asking this board to act on this in the favorable vote so we can go forward with the Board of Appeals again to present our new plan. We're here to answer any questions that this board might have, and Carl Fry can speak for BPV Lowell.
Thank you, Attorney Flood.
For the record, I'm Carl Fry. I'm a principal owner of BPV Lowell, Western Avenue Studios. I have a very brief statement. It's less than 2 minutes long, and let me jump right into it. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board. It was a little over a year ago, on April 2nd, that you voted unanimously to include 150, 200, and 250 Western Avenue in the Artist Overlay District. Those are the specific addresses of what we call 122 Western Avenue or Western Avenue Studios. Much has occurred in the building since then. The number of working artist studios in the building has been increased from 106 to 121. and there are presently now more than 160 artists working at Western Avenue Studios. A group of the artists has formed a cooperative that opened a gallery in the studio building that has drawn over 1,000 visitors since it opened just 3 months ago. We are working with Atlantis Playmakers to facilitate the move of their 10-year-old and very successful theater company from Billerica to a 90-seat venue to be created in the old machine shop at Western Avenue Studios. So although a great deal has been accomplished, the 80,000 square feet in the G-Mill that we wished to convert to live workspace remains vacant and unused. On January 28th, the Zoning Board of Appeals denied our application for a special permit, as you heard, for 48 live-work units and a variance to allow for fewer than 2 parking spaces per unit. Last month, we resubmitted the repetitive application to the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Zoning Board of Appeals agreed that the new application is material and specifically different than the original application that was denied on January 28th, and we hope that you will also agree this evening on 2 basic facts. The application is variance-free, whereas the prior application would have required variances. The prior application concerned 48 units in 1 building in the complex. The current and new application considers 68 units in 4 buildings in the complex. So therefore, we hope that your vote is simple and factually based this evening. We were, as I mentioned, completely surprised by the Zoning Board of Appeals and their denial of the special permit necessary. It was a very unfortunate denial. At that time, we had the project financed with Boston Private Bank. We had 5 units pre-sold. We now have 68 prospective residents on our interest list. And again, that was on the original plan of 48 units. We hope you'll agree that the repetitive petition application is indeed material and specifically different from the original application submitted. And thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you, sir. Would anybody else like to speak in favor, please? Just state your name and address for the record, if you would.
Megan Moore. I'm at 226 Baldwin Street in Lowell. And this is Crispin Moore. He promises not to be too noisy.
That's quite okay.
All right. I'd like to read a statement. Those of us in attendance tonight being members of the arts community in Lowell, I would like those folks who are members of the arts community in Lowell to please stand so we can show you our support of the project. Up here before you in person this evening in support of your finding that the application before you concerning the project at the Western Avenue Studios complex is non-repetitive. The building has become a vital part of the creative economy in Lowell and is on its way to becoming the largest concentration of artists under one roof in Massachusetts. Adding a live-work component to the project only adds to its long-term viability, and we believe the project will become nationally prominent on the arts scene and will show our city of Lowell in the best light as a forward-thinking city, supporting its diversity and vital communities. We thank you and applaud your support of this application. The folks behind me also have things to say, but we're wondering if you would like us to simply come up, read names into the record for you.
We could do it either way. If anybody wants to make a statement with any comments that we want to be heard, or if people just want to come up and state their name and address for the record. Therefore, we have it all listed on the minutes of who the people spoke in favor. So people just, if everybody's going to say basically the same thing, that's fine too. If they just want to say we're in favor of the project and we think there is enough change to send it back to the Zoning Board of Appeals, that's fine too. Sure.
Great,
So people,
we'll keep it brief.
if everybody just wants to come up and state
Thank
their name and say they're in favor, that's fine. Any comment there, we'd be more than happy to address. So anybody else like to speak in favor? Just if you want to state your name and just say you're for the project, and thank you. If you're coming down here, you might as well be heard.
Excuse me.
My name is Maxine Farkas, and I live at River Place Towers, and I have a studio at Western Avenue Studios, and I work in the gallery at Western Avenue Studios, and I'm very much in support of this project and of the finding that it is non-repetitive and that it could go forward. I really would like to live at Western Avenue Studios. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
There should be a sign-up sheet too, if you don't mind, putting your name and address on the sheet. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay.
Come on, Karen.
You took it.
Hi, my name is Karen Betancourt. I live right now in Woburn, but would very much like to be living in the live workspaces at Western Avenue. I have a studio there, and I put earnest money down on a studio and was extremely disappointed not to be able to be moving in this year. But I think it's a fabulous addition to this community, and I would like to stop spending so much money on gas driving up here.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We actually are concerned with the gas. We echo your concern with the gas. Yeah.
Once you sign it, right?
Good evening. My name is Ashley Wells-Smith. I live at 70 Austin Street in Lowell, Massachusetts, and I have a studio at Western Ave. And I think this is a wonderful idea, and hopefully you will agree and support this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jessica Cohen. I live on Barrington Street in Lowell, Massachusetts, and I'm just here to support the project.
Thank you very much.
I'm Steve Severson. I live at 269 Dutton Street, and I would like to say that I've watched the whole Western Avenue facility develop over the past 4 years, and the addition of these live workspaces would be a huge asset to the project.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Anna Harrison, and I own a charming house at 47 Prospect Street, Lowell, and I have a studio at Western Ave, and I'm supporting this project.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, I'm David LeBlanc. I live at 35 Daniel Street in Lowell. I'm an artist at Western Ave, and I support this project.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Michelle Mason. I also live at 35 Daniel Street in Lowell, and I also support this project. I think that it's important to show the vibrance in the arts in Lowell, and that this project would do that.
Thank you very much.
I'm Stu Krenzel. I'm an artist. I have a studio at 122 Western Ave, and I'm here to support the project because I feel it's important. I've been doing research on communities recently and found that this would bring, I think, a lot of additional revenues and be a point of destination to the city of Lowell.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
My name is Rebecca Wetmore. I'm an artist with a studio at Western Avenue Studios, and I live here in Lowell on Bridge Street, and I'm here to support this project.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Andrew Wetmore. We live at 200 Mass Mill Drive, and Rebecca's studio was one of the first to open up at Western Ave. We've followed this development closely, and I strongly support this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Leonard Hall. I live at 169 Salem Street. I'm an artist at Western Avenue Studios, and I support this project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak in favor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. And I'm not an artist, but I have attended the Western Avenue's open studios on the first Saturday of the month. And every opening that they have is an excellent one. I've been a proponent of this project, and what they tried to do back last year when it originally came before the Planning Board and when it went before the ZBA in January. And I will continue to support it and urge the Planning Board to unanimously vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none. That portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition?
My name is William McCann.
I'm sorry, sir, your name?
William McCann.
Okay.
On the property at 40 Payne Street, which abuts this property. We have 6 industrial garages down there, 6 across the street. And it's just not a good place for people to be raising their children with the trains that continually run through there. Excuse me. It's just not a safe environment. It's all industrial around it, and it's a noisy place. I mean, we feel if they move 80 people into there so odd, it's just going to be a big conflict with the noise and the construction. So I'm opposed to this project.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak in opposition to the plan? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none further, that portion of public hearing is closed. Any of the board members have any questions or concerns? Mr. Fischett, can I start with you?
Chairman, if I may.
Thank you.
In looking at the proposal, I can see where there's specific and material changes. What I failed to see, and if Attorney Flood could clarify, because you are increasing the units, but then you're stating that you would not be looking for a variance on the parking. So I'm just a little curious how you're able to obtain that, or
Well, we had enough last time, Mr. Fischett, but all of the rest of the buildings downtown in the Artist Overlay District only require one per unit. We have plenty of parking there, so we have room for two. So I was just trying to, when I made the original request, to keep it in line with other buildings in the Artist Overlay District.
Okay, so you will not be seeking relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals on that?
No.
Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. And that will be how many parking spaces per unit that you?
Two.
2 parking spaces per unit. That was really the only question I had, Mr. Chairman. Again, I can see the specific and material changes from the original proposal, spreading the units out over the 4 buildings and increasing the square footage as well. I think that was probably a concern, but I certainly am in favor of finding the specific and material changes to the plan.
Thank you, Mr. Fischett. Mr. Lockhart, any questions?
I have no questions, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Mr. Claremont, any questions, concerns?
No questions, just a comment. I do appreciate everyone coming out and speaking on behalf of this matter this evening. You're always very well represented. I think it's the very definition of a specific and material change, the change in the number of units and the fact that no parking variances will be required, and now the space is going to exceed the 750 square feet, and I'll support it.
Okay. Thank you. I too believe there's a substantial change. I think when you go from 48 up to 68, or even 68 down to 48, it's obviously a substantial change to the property. So that's the main concern I have, due to the fact that the 3 issues that we looked at compared with different from the last time we did the hearing, when we voted in favor, was now you do have the more parking, as the board members mentioned. The amount of units has jumped considerably, the amount, which would be a material change. And also, you have the land dwelling unit now, which is the 750 square feet. Yeah. So combining all 3 to those as well, I also believe that there is a material specific change to have the matter be sent back to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a public hearing. So saying that, any board members have any further comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, and I concur with all of those points, that we find that the application does contain specific and material changes from the first application, and it shall be sent back to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
There's a motion made by Mr. Lockhart on the floor. Anyone to second that motion?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Mr. Fischett. All in favor, say aye.
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 Chair votes yes. We have 4 in favor, none against, and 1 absent. So what happens now, the matter does go back to the Zoning Board of Appeals for public hearing at that meeting.
We'll have to file a new application with the board, and then everyone will get notice again.
Okay. So that'll be advertised on, so you don't have a date of that yet, that's still.
I don't have a date yet. Depends on when I get it
So
in.
due to the fact that we found a material change, now we'll go back to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and they'll have to set up a public hearing for all to attend. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming down. Thank you. Thank you all for your attendance. Moving along, we have pre-application sessions. We have 2 this evening. These are matters that come before the planning board for a preliminary review, and their proposed projects listed below. These are not public hearings, and we do not render any decision on these matters. These are for preliminary review before the board, and they usually come back sometimes in a future date for a public hearing, or sometimes they don't come back at all, depending on some of our reports or some of the considerations that the applicant had. So the first project for preliminary pre-application session is 26 Highland Street. The applicant is John McDonough, care of Polis Engineering. The project is a 2-family residence. The zoning is in the traditional multi-family zone, and the required review is for a neighborhood, excuse me, charter special permit. May we hear the case for the applicant, please? Sure. Thank you. We got a little color screen. Color picks it up easier.
Mr. Chairman, and before we begin, I will be abstaining on the, any vote on this.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. For the record, my name is Matt Hammer. I'm with Polaris Hancock Engineering. We're here before you this evening as an agenda item for discussion to locate a duplex on the existing parcel, which is commonly known as the McDonough Funeral Home, which is located at 26 Highland Street. And to get you familiarized, if you're not already, this is the funeral home itself. And there's an existing dwelling here on the funeral home property, as well as a swimming pool, an existing garage, an existing parking area. You may recall last year we came before the board to do an addition off of the existing building, and it just turned out that it was going to be too expensive to construct that addition, so we are not moving forward with that addition at this time. What the family would like to do is site a duplex on the property, which would be located in this proximity right here. But what I wanted to do is show you this aerial photograph to show the existing multifamily buildings located in close proximity to the property, as well as other duplexes as well. This is our proposed rendered site plan, and shown in gray is the access drive. Shown in orange here is a proposed duplex, which is 27.5 by 63 feet. And we're also showing a proposed parking area at the rear of the building. And this is the existing garage, which is currently on the property. What they want to do is the two sons of John McDonough want to live in this building, and they want to have their families grow up on the property and utilize this existing pool area in this, what will now be their front yard. They also have a blow-up of the elevation of the duplex itself, which is shown here, which is a 2.5-story structure. The half-story above is actually going to be an attic space, not a loft, like you may sometimes have seen in the past, as well as a farmer's porch entrance on the front of the building. We currently have met with the planning department and had a meeting with them, and we thought that meeting went real well with this proposal. And we're also scheduled to meet the engineering department tomorrow morning, as well as the historic department, because this property is in the South Commons historic area.
And that's my presentation. I can answer any questions from the board.
Sure. Can I just ask I guess I'll ask a couple of questions first. To the bottom of your site, way down by where your parking is?
Yes.
Okay, what does it say there? It has Burn Street Public Road?
Yep, there's a public right-of-way here called
Okay.
Burn Street.
That's not developed now, what's that? That's just wooded area as well?
No, that is developed.
Okay.
Right now, there's a multifamily right here.
Okay.
There's a duplex right here.
All right.
There's a one-family and a one-family.
Okay. When you came in last year, we had a question, I think, came up with the, was it the fire department on the curb cut?
Yes.
Could you address that one way or another, whether that's going to happen or not, or will it be addressed on this issue?
That's currently being widened right now.
Okay.
As we speak.
All right.
Yep.
So I remember they had a question on that when we came in a year ago? When he
Yep.
went to put that was when he was going to do the addition on the back of the funeral parlor?
That's correct. And that widening is happening right here. And they're going to, widening the curb cut per the fire department comments.
Yeah, I remember that, I wasn't sure what the status was.
Right,
but we had
regardless
that.
of the addition, they
That's
wanted to
going
make
in.
sure that this was, had full access and approval from the fire department to access the existing facility.
So that would help you out either way, depending on no matter what you put in with that extra
Right,
curb cut.
that's correct.
Okay. Okay. What's the size of the lot that's going to be in the back? I know it's big size. I remember going up there and walking it last year when they were coming in back in, and I met Mr. McDonough and his son up there, and we discussed it. So I know back behind the pool there's quite a bit of land in where that garage is now.
Yeah, the
So
parcel,
will there be a single lot back there that's going to be divided by,
we're not going to create a lot.
Okay.
Even though this could accommodate an A&R lot, they have enough frontage to create a lot for that duplex. They are opting not to do that.
so it will remain on the same lot then, correct?
That's correct. And we've have put in a access and use easement so
Okay.
that they can go through this portion of the property to access that duplex.
That easement there now, that's what you would create if the plan, for the plan. You don't have that easement existing, do you?
That's correct,
Okay.
no. Yeah.
But that's how you get access in there with the easement, which
Right. Even though it's for themselves,
Right.
for the entire family, we just wanted to make sure that was just included because it's a
it makes it
simple-
easier so in future reference.
in the long run,
Yeah.
right.
Right.
Sure.
Thank you.
Anticipate
Go ahead.
breaking it, providing access through Burn Street at any point in time?
We're not intending to do that.
No. I'm just thinking, from a practical standpoint, although it's probably not a big deal, trash pickup and mail delivery, and you're gonna do that out at the front on Highland Ave?
That's correct. We looked at the access from Burn Street, which is a good idea, which we would like to do, possibly make a curb cut into Burn Street. It just brings about turnaround issues related to fire apparatus and
Yeah.
things of that
It's
nature.
tight back
Sure,
there.
it's tight, gotta be-
Yeah, it is. But we're going to be talking to the city to do some utility connections, potential utility connections within Burns,
Yeah, that would
like
make
sewer, water.
Speaking of Burn Street, it looks like in your plan, I'm not sure, you have a little line, is that like for landscape area or something? See how it's like a little humped line that goes over and over, but on the edge?
Fence.
Right here?
Yes, but a little ways in from your property line. So would that be landscape behind the house?
No, what that is we're showing a tree clearing.
Oh,
line.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
I wasn't sure what that was. I could see the line, but I wasn't exactly sure what that was.
You can actually see the tree line on the aerial
Mm-hmm.
here. It's just showing that we're going to take those trees down.
Okay, all right. Okay. I have no further questions. Mr. Claremont?
Yes, thank you. Did you say that you were taking the trees down in that area?
Yes.
So, will there be any screening between that parking area and the multiple family on Burn Street there?
Only what would be existing there.
that'll remain.
More and more we're finding we need to keep the trees farther away from the buildings because of insurance purposes, the bigger ones. But to answer your question, no, we would be taking those down. If we can leave some in this corner, we could do that, so that because those would be far enough away from the proposed structure. But right in here, we would be taking them all down between this.
I'm more concerned about the screening between your parking area and that two-family that seems to touch the property line right at the bottom
Right.
of the site plan.
All I can say is it is the end of the building where that would be, but we can make sure that we provide some sort of screening there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you did it by the end of your driveway, I think is what Joe's getting at, where your driveway stops, you had some type of plantings right there just to give a little buffer zone.
Yeah.
Might be a little privacy for both sides.
Sure.
I know you've got on the plan that there's going to be access and use easements for the benefits of the other properties. You'll provide an access easement to get, obviously, to this back property through that one curb cut. There'll also be access easements for the commercial for the funeral home as well?
That's
Is that
correct.
Because that garage that's on the plan, that's for the funeral home, correct? Not for the residential property?
That's correct. But again, all of the entire property is going to be utilized by the same family.
Right, I'm
So
just
they're-
thinking in the future,
Yeah.
at some point, if they want to sell it, you know, unless another family buys the entire property, you know, you're gonna have to take care of the access for all the various aspects of it. But it's a big lot, and I think that it's probably a good use for it up there, so I wouldn't have any particular problems with it. But that's all the comments I have, Mr. Chairman.
I would like to note that just this one section here could accommodate, 10 to 12 multifamily buildings.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a big lot, there's no doubt
yeah.
about that.
And I brought up those issues to the family, and they just adamant about them utilizing the entire parcel for themselves. So,
This is not a public hearing, but is there anybody here who wants to make any comments on this plan? Okay. Having none, okay. So that's basically our feedback at this point in time. Do you plan on coming forward with it in the future, I take it, for a public hearing?
yeah, we'll be submitting an application this Friday.
Okay, all right. So basically, when you come in, what you need on the special permit is the neighborhood character, correct?
That's correct.
And that's what you were trying to point out when you first showed by what houses were in by the aerial view?
That's correct. We're
Okay.
we're showing you that this is consistent with the neighborhood,
Right.
if not more beneficial to the neighborhood in terms of character, and that there's multifamily buildings that are those big, square.
I mean, especially if you're looking at it from here over to the left-hand side, you get the big ones. On your plan.
That's
you
right,
get
yeah.
To the left, to the left. Those block right, those two.
Yeah, and we're hoping that when we meet with the historic board, that they're gonna show a favorable response to this duplex, so that'll help with that decision also.
I think the people that might be impacted the most would be the ones at the bottom of your plan, so if you
Yeah,
touch
it
base
looks
with them,
that way.
answer some questions, that might alleviate some of their concerns.
Yeah, and I've talked to the family, and they said that they haven't never had a problem with the neighbors, and they don't foresee.
That's important. I think when we're touching with, try to get, if you get a little screening in there, that way you have privacy on both ends, especially where both ends are used to so much privacy with all the trees up there
Yeah.
now. Then all of a sudden you start cutting them and.
Yeah.
It looks, one thing to look at on the plan, but when it actually starts happening, you're like, wow.
All right, maybe they'll want some light to come in.
Yeah, maybe,
You never know.
start growing
Well,
gardens,
you wanna leave
some
it
people
up
like
to-
the lights it will
Yeah.
build, but.
To block it.
Yeah, so. Okay, well, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you.
You're welcome.
in the
Thank
future.
you.
Good luck. Moving along, our next pre-application project will be 1235 Bridge Street.
Excuse me.
On for pre-application session, we have a project address is located at 1235 Bridge Street. The applicant is Valley Properties, Inc. The project is a retail strip center, and the zoning is the regional retail, and it requires a site plan review. I believe everybody knows this as the Mullis Market Basket on the end of Bridge Street, on the right-hand side going out. And this is before us tonight for a preliminary plan. also known as pre-application plan, which is for informational purposes only, and comments from the board. Thank you. Yeah.
This is proposed?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have a copy in the plan. This is just a colored one, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, no problem. So can we hear the case for the applicant, please?
For the record, my name is Jim Lamp. I'm a professional engineer with J&Co, representing Valley Properties and Demoulas Market Basket. With me is Kevin Dandrade from TEC, also a designing engineer. Thank you for having us here, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We're here to discuss the redevelopment of a center on Bridge Street, right next to the Dracut line, which is right along Emerson Avenue. The property is bounded by Willard Street to the south and to the west by Bridge Street. It's a 133,000 square foot facility with currently some space that was occupied by the former Ames. It's unoccupied at this time. The proposal is to completely raise the entire building and reorganize the site, reorganize the parking, increase the landscaping, meet buffers where the buffers are not met today, reduce the square footage by roughly 23,000 square feet, and we think end up with a much better product. What you have here is the Market Basket is on the north side, the Ames building is here, and there's a Walgreens with some small tenants in between. See if I can get this thing. Yeah. The proposal is to square the building up to Bridge Street and create a 66,000 square foot Market Basket. The current Market Basket, if I can get my numbers right, is about 46,000 square feet. So we're increasing the square footage by 20,000 square feet for the Market Basket. We're taking the Walgreens out of inline and creating a remote spot for them so that they can have drive-through access for the pharmacy. And then we're creating space for the smalls. Our intention is to be able to keep all the small tenants and the Market Basket open throughout construction. So it's going to be a pretty complicated phased development. They do not overlap. The existing Market Basket is right here. There's a gap of about 40 feet. We'll be able to take down the smalls, relocate some into existing space here and into new proposed space. And as we build the Market Basket, then we tear down the old Market Basket, occupy this one, and then build the rest of the small space. So it will be a phased development, but we're hoping that we can be in the ground this year and up and running in '09. With that, I guess one of the important things that what we tried to do is the existing site circulation for trucking and deliveries is entirely from Willard Street. There is no access around the building. It's kind of a dead-end affair. You come in, you offload, and come back out on Willard Street. As a part of the redesign, what we've done is we've actually created a one-way circulation. So we're going to remove half the traffic of truck trips from Willard Street and get them back onto Bridge Street where we feel they belong. Bridge Street is a much more commercial street. Willard is more residential and has that feel of residential. So the empty trucks, which tend to be a tad more loud than the full trucks, will be out on Bridge Street. We've created two throats as curb cuts with a third curb cut, mainly to access the loading area for the pharmacy and the egress for the the loading for the pharmacy and the egress for the drive-through. The curb cuts will allow for better organization of traffic on site. It will keep people from doing the old diagonal, which I like to do when I come into a shopping center, is you come into an entrance and you see your spot and you go diagonal across all the spaces. This should organize the traffic much better, bring them to the front of the building and feed back into the parking field, and they are able to find their first empty space and park into that. The parking is being expanded by, I want to say 20 or 30 spaces, so the actual count, the ratio will increase significantly, better to service the customers and also the expanded market basket. There's areas on site where we don't meet current setback requirements of 10 feet from residential. We're going to meet those as a part of this proposal everywhere. And we're hoping to be before the ZBA after we go to the planning board for 2 applications. One is for plantings within the parking field. I believe, Aaron, if I'm correct, it's a tree every 50 feet. So you have to have these overlapping radiuses. And it being a redevelopment, we were having a hard time meeting the requirements of the parking and still meeting that radius. So we've tried to space them out throughout. We're going to have adequate landscaping, obviously, on the long linear islands, but throughout the parking lot, we didn't want to lose too many spaces in the main field, so that we're not able to meet. The other one is a special permit for the drive-through.
Drive-through? Right.
Drive-through
Okay.
just for the pharmacy,
Right.
which
Right.
I'm sure you've seen some, but it's a much different type operation than a fast food drive-through or anything like that. It's just for drop-off of prescriptions and pickup of prescriptions. With that, I'd like to open it up to the board for any questions.
Okay. I'll start with Mr. Claremont.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Certainly like the plan. This iteration looks like you've really planned out the landscaping very nicely. If you could, I know you touched on the traffic flow for the trucks and also the drive-through. If you could just describe those 2 traffic patterns, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, for the trucks, if I can actually, I'll just describe what it is today. Is Willard Street, located kind of along the southeast corridor of the site. The entrance point is here. Trucks come in, they would offload for the Ames when it was open, the Market Basket, and the Walgreens, and they would have to leave by Willard Street. What we're doing now is we're creating a one-way traffic flow, where trucks come in, they back into the loading dock for the Market Basket, also compactors and the smalls, and they move through the site and come out at this entrance. We have widened radiuses in order to make those truck movements accessible to them. The truck movement for the Walgreens, which they have, I think, about 1 delivery a week. They're relatively low.
They're the
on
smaller
quality.
trucks there.
But it comes through, comes around, and leaves by Bridge Street. And then there's one small 5,200 square foot tenant, which would be most likely the service tenants that are there today, have a small area back here for their access. Very similar to what's there today, actually. There's a small loading, offloading area in that location today. As far as vehicles accessing the site, there's 3 curb cuts today. There's one here, here, and here. When they come in, you have really room for 1 car to stack. And Kevin, this is much more, Kevin's a traffic engineer, but I'll give you the layman's civil engineering view of it. If you want to get into more details, Kevin can probably explain it a lot better than I can. But you come in, if 1 car is queued to leave the site, that second car starts blocking the aisle that goes parallel with Bridge Street. And you start getting confusion and there's disorganization in the cars. So that's why what we thought was the best solution was to create these large queuing locations. Not that we anticipate them to be full, but it just organizes the parking lot a lot better. And so we maintained the 3 curb cuts as are today. We've pretty much hit either side of the Market Basket, which is the large traffic generator, created a small parking field here for the smalls, and also a more isolated field for the pharmacy. Kevin, do you have anything to add on that?
One of the other benefits to the plan, too, is on the pedestrian scale. So although we're servicing vehicles in this field as well, We have strong pedestrian connections from Bridge Street right to the front of the building. So rather than fight your way across the parking lot as you do today, we're establishing very good sidewalk connections right from the municipal infrastructure.
Along those lines, we've also left the connection, there's a small walking path there, we're leaving that connection to Lowell Street. It'll be reorganized, but essentially the same pedestrian. We're proposing to put a sidewalk along our frontage, also on Lord Street with a curb, where there really isn't one today. It's kind of a, like the original Cape Cod berm. It's like a 3-foot long berm which slopes towards the road and creates a gutter 3 feet into the roadway.
When the large trucks drop off their items, they'll be exiting then out to Bridge Street, correct?
Correct.
That's primarily done off hours, I would imagine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And the access then for the drive-through, you've got a curb cut there for the drive-through?
Access would be along the front of the building in this direction, and they could either come back around, this is a one-way flow.
Okay.
Or they would leave, exit the site at that location.
All right. All right, so that curb cut to the far right then, is that just for the drive-through, or would there be other?
It's really pretty much for that.
Right.
It provides some access to get over here, but I really don't see that being used when you have a straight shot here. Why would you leave yourself behind the rear of the store to get in? You know, someday if I was there, I might use it, but I think it's an individual's preference.
Right.
It's not intended to be a large used access.
Great. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Claremont. Mr. Fischett, any questions?
Mr. Chairman, just a couple more comments than anything else. It really is, I like what's happening to the site, and especially the parking lot and the control of the traffic, because it really is, it's the way that parking lot is set up right now. I think you're controlling the potential traffic conflicts along Bridge Street a lot better than what's there right now, and you're also controlling, I think, potential conflicts within the parking lot itself, so I commend you for that. Also, I think the landscaping, and I'm pretty much a stickler to this, but I think you're really doing a good job trying to meet the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish with the landscaping within the parking lot. The only thing I would ask you to maybe consider is what Mr. Claremont was touching on is the, you know, I like the idea of going from the 3 curb cuts to the 2, but then you do have that third, and knowing how, again, people take the path of least resistance, and I'm assuming that's going to be right around the crest of Bridge Street where that comes up, is maybe even that narrow one way is to put a speed bump or two to really discourage somebody from trying to enter the parking lot, using that as their entrance to enter there, because if you put a couple speed bumps, it isn't going to be worth it for them to
We could do that, or
fly
we
through
could
that.
also, I think what might handle that, and of course signage only works as well as enforcement, but I don't think there would be any issue with this just being a loading-only access point. So you would allow the people that come here so they don't have to, again,
Yeah,
go
something
behind the
just to
building.
prevent that
They leave
from-
here, but you have 2 signs saying
Yeah.
it's really access for service and loading.
And just feedback for you when you come
Yep,
back,
yep.
but somehow to just kind of control that a little bit better. But I think the pedestrian circulation is a lot safer. What are you proposing for curbing? Is it the granite curbing?
Typically, they go vertical granite.
Granite,
on
vertical
everything.
granite,
They
yep.
really do.
Yep.
They've had the stores for so long, they really know what lasts around New England, and it's vertical granite.
Yep. No, and I think from what's there right now, I think visually this is going to be a big improvement. One question for you, and I commend the effort to still operate with during the construction period. Is that going to affect the existing parking at all, or how are you planning to?
We haven't
anything?
gotten to that
Okay.
point to really map out the phasing. It really takes us to kind of engage a contractor, because we being kind of desk jockeys really need the guys that are the dirt guys that will say, you know, you really can't do it this way or that. But I think it's something that once we get to that point, we can work with the city as far as phasing and making sure that we maintain an adequate amount. Obviously,
Right.
Market Basket doesn't want to have its patrons inconvenienced in any way. So it's to their best interest to make sure that this phasing works.
Great. And I just want to point out, you're increasing the landscaping from what's there. What's required is 222 parking spaces. What's existing is 354, and you're increasing it to 384. So I think that I certainly like what's before us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fischett. Mr. Lockhart?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions and a comment. I think your project is a very good one. I've been looking at an empty store there for quite a few years, so the impact on the neighborhood is good and positive. And having said that, I just really have a couple of questions. One, can you just, visually on your print here, you can see that you've got a lot of vegetation around the circumference, so to speak, of the site. But just in general, what is that composed of, and how is that going to screen the whole project from the abutters?
Well, this one right here, in all honesty, this is the pretty picture.
Yeah,
TEC is preparing the full landscape plan that will be a part of the submittal. What we've talked to the abutters in this location, the two residences here, and what we've worked with them, and I believe some might be in the audience. We've talked about a 6-foot tall concrete wall with with stone facade on their side, so it would be a veneer of field stone on their side. And then arborvitae, I believe, a hedge of arborvitae on our side on top of that. Is that correct? Then there's a 10-foot landscaped area, a buffer area on our side that's not there today, because we have pavement currently along this edge especially, pavement's right up to the property line.
Yeah, all right.
So in these locations here, that's what we proposed. And in some areas, it might end up being that it's a 6-foot wall on the abutter side, but there's a little bit of fill on our side, so it might come up 2-3 feet on our side to meet grade, because we were going to slope it down in the 10-foot area, but now we'll just keep it level, so the plantings will be on a level landscaped area. And then in this location here, it's existing trees. It's a very thin area between an apartment complex behind us. And what we'll do is we'll take a look at where the gaps are and try to fill them in with trees that will work in that kind of a situation. Probably some kind of an evergreen. It could even be white pine, I'm not sure.
All right, so just vegetation maybe on this side.
And here, probably one of the better Benefits is the building today is right along this edge.
Right.
What we've tried to do is match grade. There's actually some fairly decent-sized trees in there. Most of these trees, if I recall on the grading plan, and we'll take another look, we're going to be able to save a lot of the trees along the property line. So we're going to maintain those, and then there's going to be, actually, we're coming back 30 and 40 feet in some areas where the building was only 10, 15 feet off the property line. And we'll vegetate that, but it's really a slope. This is up high and it slopes down to our site.
Yeah. Right.
So I think it's a 3-to-1 slope. It's not a, there might be a 2-to-1 in some areas, but some of them might be maintained, but most likely what we'll try to do is we'll plant it and let it go back to being more wooded. I think that, and here, there's an existing arborvitae hedge here, and that's a commercial use that's right now.
Okay, it's just, I think you've described it very well. Just important to, isolate the neighborhood to some degree. You show a dumpster pad up in the right-hand corner. Back in there somewhere. Is
there's a
that pretty well
compactor.
hidden and going to be?
Yeah. The
there
actual
are
edge.
houses just on the other side there.
What we did was the edge of the building. I'll flip back again. This is actually some white pines that have gotten quite mature. They're 12-inch plus caliper.
Right.
We're maintaining all those trees, and what we did was we maintained the edge of that building. Nothing gets closer than that to the street. On this one point, that's at the same location as the building is today, and then this edge of pavement is right where the building is. So we're maintaining that. Again, we'll infill as we can. You can't plant deciduous trees underneath the evergreens, but we can mix in where some might be unhealthy.
Yeah, okay.
There's a compactor pad, a dumpster pad for the smallest compactors for Roach Brothers, and 2 more compactors over in this location here.
Okay, and just one last thing. The perennial problem on that site has been traffic from the parking lot entering Bridge Street. Very busy street, as you know.
Yeah.
Traffic counts are huge there. Have you considered, or are you in talks with the city or DPD regarding that and possibly putting in a street light, a control system there?
There you go.
We did look at it at a due diligence level for Market Basket because it was one of their desires to look at as well. Because if there was a signal, there could be improved access for the facility. There are some limitations, however, one of which is the width of Bridge Street and the available width of right-of-way. The other issue that we had looked at was the impacts of queuing or backups from that signal. And where we have a number of curb cuts across the street, we've located this driveway here is in approximately the same location as the existing one. We're closing this one in this location, and this is a slight shift actually to the south. The existing one's approximately here. There's an office building located directly across. We looked at a number of different options for where we could locate it, but ultimately, out of respect for the abutters across the street and their unsignalized driveway operations, if we were to take one at this point, it could queue back and block those driveway movements. So the other thing is with the 3 curb cuts, there are reasonable delays, you know, and like I like to say with one of our other principals, it's a comfortable level of congestion. You know you're going to have to wait at any driveway entering upon to get out upon Bridge Street, but it's not insurmountable. We looked at some of the crash records that were available through Mass Highway. Keeps a very large database of everything in Lowell and other towns.
Yeah.
But we did look at that, the cross-section requirements, but where we're reducing the footprint of the building, we're reducing the potential to generate traffic. And I realize that Ames has been quiet for a while, but if that was fully reoccupied, then we could see more than what we'd see with this redevelopment pattern. So we see a net reduction in traffic potential, and I use that word potential because it would be there, increase in parking supply, and by rearranging and organizing these curb cuts, we end up being able to stack multiple vehicles in each exit lane. So it's not a conflict within the parking lot the way it is today.
Would it be reasonable to say that most of the congestion is on site rather than on the street? Getting into the site is much easier than leaving the site on Bridge Street?
Certainly. The backups associated with people turning left into the site is kept with only a vehicle or 2 while waiting for gap in northbound traffic. Like Jim mentioned, most of it's contained on the site. And with this redevelopment proposal, it's contained in a very organized manner. And in fact, I wish I had this set up at a number of other plazas that we designed because this is very well laid out and it affords us the ability to get everybody into the site and distribute into the main parking field.
I can say you're going to control it, Will, it's just, okay. That's all it is. Yeah, it would be nice to have it there, but the way you explained the businesses across the street, it might not be good for them, so.
If there was one major user across the street, we could probably work.
Yeah, right.
There's no real given location, easy location to say this is what it is.
Sure, okay, thank you.
I just have a couple questions. I'm happy to see that you're going to be utilizing that new Ames, because that's been sitting there vacant for a long period of time. I know Division of Planning and Development for the city is trying to get some action on that business for a long period of time. So seeing that be developed, it will, my opinion, it will clean up the site, make it a lot nicer instead of having that vacant building there. I thought it was pretty amazing when you told me you could develop this while still keeping the other one open. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
You could do that. I mean, when you told me that, I said, wow. Usually we don't
They're
see
getting
something of that
Market
nature.
Basket's getting quite good at it, actually. They're
Bet you are.
doing some
Yeah,
pretty amazing
I mean, I was, when you
projects.
said that, and then you said you could have it open, everything, and have it open by '09, that's a lot of work,
If
so.
we can get through the permitting process.
I hear
we
you.
think we
And
should
I know how
be
you
able to
say,
do
you know,
that.
how you're gonna do the parking here. I
get
mean,
through that,
you can sketch it, but it's up to the field agents to go out there and decide who's gonna
Yep.
park and where. I give you credit on that, but that could be done. One of the things you brought up about the parking and the plantings in the parking lot, I personally don't have too much of a concern about some of that. I think it's a matter, I mean, you do have plenty of landscaping all the way around. I know we like to break it up in the middle when it comes to, so you don't just have all the parking spaces, but I think you do have some there. And it comes down to decision, and we had the same issue actually right down Bridge Street on the other end, just within the last year, when we had the new CVS going in. The question was, do you want more parking or you want more plantings? And it was basically, you know, the developer said, we'll do either. What do you want, the parking or the landscaping? And it was basically, we asked the neighbors and said, what would you prefer? You know, do you want to make it look nice, or do you want to make sure there's plenty of cars off the road? Some people say, well, we don't think they need all the parking spaces. And then sometimes parking spaces, you know, if you have the parking spaces, you don't utilize them, you can always put the trees on there. But if you don't have parking spaces, you're not going to get to add to them later. So when it comes down to putting them in the middle, that's not a major concern of mine. I don't know about the other board members, but I think you do have plenty of landscape around. If it comes down to having more parking spaces, more people there utilize it, more safety issues, and to have less trees, I don't have much of a problem with that. And I personally, I'm just speaking for myself, where you do have plenty of landscape, and I think you are trying to put the trees in the middle. So if you miss, I know what the ratio is, what you need so many.
We're not as worried about the ratio as we
It
are
looks
about
good. That's
just
the
trying
main
to find the spaces in interior.
Right.
And in this case, the one good thing is it's a very known entity. I mean,
Right.
they have very good numbers on how many folks they expect to be patrons
Bet
here.
they do.
And to be honest, on this one, I don't know if there's much of a choice on giving up the parking spaces. They have to, this is only, I think, what is it? We're getting to a 3.4 ratio per thousand. Market Basket likes 5.
Okay.
So they're feeling like they're right on the edge of making this work. That's why what we did is we tried to make that large field bracket the entire building and then isolate the parking for the smaller users.
And I know when you come in later for site plan, I know what usually Market Basket does, when, you know, for snow removal, they pile it up and they pile it up high and then they take it away. I mean, I watch them do it. I mean, not like I do it on purpose, but when you're shopping, you see them, they put the big mounds up and they take it away, they do maintenance. And I know usually those parking things, you know, it's in the parking lot where they pile up, you know, usually put it into a corner somewhere away from the parking, away from the building. So I know that comes into an issue, and sometimes it's easier to push that snow when there's less plantings in the way.
Yep.
Okay. One of the questions you mentioned is, I know you need a special permit for the drive-through for the pharmacy. I know that you need a special permit for the queuing. I don't know how many cars you have there for queuing. I know we're very familiar with, you don't have as many queuings at a pharmacy pickup as you would at a fast food restaurant. We've seen that.
I think there's a requirement of 5 or 4 or 5.
I forget what it is offhand. Remember what it is, Aaron, offhand?
We meet that requirement.
Yeah, it's 5.
5, okay.
Yeah, we meet that requirement.
Yeah,
And then we
because we've
actually-
had it, matter of fact, in other parts of the city, we had the queuing question come up, and they put on the end of, and one of the issues that came up, which was pretty good, when the neighbors picked up on it, and they also said, you know, with having the drive-through, you'll have less parking spots. Because they don't have to park it out of the car and go walk to the proposed pharmacy.
Yeah, the pharmacy drive-through works well on 2 occasions. In my mind, it works well for mothers who have kids in the seats, and also for people that are constantly refilling their prescriptions and
Right.
just,
You know,
it's just a
handicapped
constant
elderly who have a hard time getting in and out of the car, bad weather. So usually, you know, in the queuing, we like to stay pretty much, you know, on cue per se, you know, with the amount of spaces you have there. But as indicated, the issues we have are like, when you're looking at a Dunkin' Donuts or something like that, it's obviously, we're looking at higher volume than what you'd be picking up on.
We would limit this to a specific use.
Right. But basically, I think your project, when we were here at the last meeting, some of the neighbor association told us that you had a press release that day, and people are happy to hear that the site was going to be cleaned up. So hopefully, when it comes in for special permit, it will, excuse me, for site plan, I apologize. That'll, once we get the comments back, it'll meet most of the needs, so.
We've been working with Aaron and the staff, and what we're hoping to do is actually submit on Friday for, I believe it's the July 21st hearing.
Right. The next meeting we would have would be, that is July 21st.
We've been working with Lisa DeMeo in the engineering department. One thing I'd like to just bring up with the board, it's more of an engineering issue, but the one design issue that we're having problems is this is an area where there's CSOs. We've done test pits. We're trying to actually figure out if we can infiltrate. The materials on site are not materials that perk well at all. And as a matter of fact, in some of the tests, the water level rose when we tried to do a perk. So we're going to work hand in hand with the engineering department, do the best we can to meet the requirements of Mass DEP. But the good thing is we're increasing the pervious area on site by over half an acre. So kind of regardless of what we can and can't do, we know that the runoff will be reduced on the site. And we're going to make our best effort to try to meet some of the other BMPs that are required by DEP.
As indicated, this is not a public hearing, but does anybody have any comments who are here in the public? Any comments they want to address to us as board members? If you want to address it to the board, you may. Sure.
My name is Conrad Gothier. I'm from representing the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group. Unfortunately, they're having our meeting this evening, and so we couldn't get more people down here. But generally speaking, we like what the company, I think Valley Property, is projecting here, but we don't know. We can see from the heavens what the outline of it is, but we really don't know what these buildings look like. We'd like to see that that the buildings, all three buildings, even though they could be three different buildings, they'd have some continuity, that they'd look like they all belong together. And we have some other issues that when we were dealing with the CVS people, and we came to before the board, we had numerous meetings with the CVS people. When they started off, we had a building that looked like a shoebox. And after 4 or 5 meetings, we have talking back and forth and compromising and changing, working with the planning and development. We came up with everybody got together. We think we have a very attractive building going in on Bridge Street, on the corner of the VFW highway. Well, some of the things that are going on with that building, these people from CVS, for instance, because we had already started putting in Victorian lighting on Bridge Street, they compromised and they said, well, we'll put Victorian lighting in around our building. Okay? We'll have a nice steel fence over here. We'll put a steel fence around our building. Well, these are all things that kept on building up to make from what started off as when we came here and made our presentation, we had their picture, and it was a rosy picture with the asphalt was sort of a nice shade of tan and all that type of thing. So, you know, we presented the picture of what it actually looks like. Now, we have a very nice looking building there that's going to be built on Bridge Street. And we had a lot of dialogue. Unfortunately, I was out of town when you people came and made a presentation to 2 of the women from our neighborhood group on the 5th of June. When I'm looking at the plan here, I saw that the new plan, there's a plan here that is dated the 6th of June. And I guess I'm confused as to whether this is really the same plan that they saw, or is it a different plan? I'm talking about this one page. This one page here. Right here, 6 June. Well, the meeting was on the 5th of June, so I'm wondering whether this is something completely different. You know, it doesn't look like it to me. No, okay, but somebody, they copied this over and they changed the date.
We probably made 3 or 4 different other changes, just as you grade things, all of a sudden you have to sort of stare at the new location, or you're saying, oh, the sidewalk needs to be shifted. But in essence, the things that we discussed with the neighbors have been addressed, and we've actually given the okay for TEC to include the details of the walls, the arborvitae landscaping, the 10-foot buffer. So there will be constantly changed plans, but if there was anything that was discussed or agreed to with the butters, we wouldn't do that to the plans until we spoke with you.
Okay. All right, so I have a few things here that I want to mention, and we're not going to take up all night. But it was, at one time, there used to be a bus shelter on this piece of property. The bus shelter is no longer there. We have a lot of people in our neighborhood that take the bus to Demoulas. They leave on rainy days. They go out, they wait in line, wait for the bus. You know, the bus is flexible, doesn't always come to the exact minute. They're standing out in the rain. We think a bus shelter should go back there. We also think that there should be a pedestrian light to get these people across the street. We also think that there should be some kind of a curb cut for a handicap ramp right directly in the same area. When I was talking to Planning and Development, they mentioned that there were more parking spaces. We are very interested in green space. Now, when you look at the lot that we have right now, it's covered with brown bark mulch. We're interested in green space, lawn, sprinkler system, attractive plants. And I look at this plan here, it doesn't look like that there is a lot of really green space. It looks to me like this tan area here is bark mulch. And, you know, when we're talking green space, that's what we'd like to see. We'd like to see lawn, we'd like to see sprinkler system, we'd like to see all that type of thing, different types of flowering plants. When Demoulas, or these Valley Properties did their business over a number of years ago, they put some kind of a locust tree in. If I look at the other Demoulas stores, I see little leaf linden trees put in. A much more expensive tree, by the way, I guess sure you know, and we'd like to see something of quality put into our neighborhood. These are the kind of issues that what we would like to do is we would like to meet with you people and at least have an opportunity to say, if you have a night in mind or an afternoon in mind, could you give us the opportunity, because it's vacation time, we usually only have one meeting a month, and in the summertime we have no real meeting. But we would put a meeting together, but we'd have to have a little bit of flexibility. For instance, it couldn't be the day after the 4th of July. You see what I mean? Yeah, nobody would like that. So we wouldn't get very many people to come to the meeting. We'd like to see a fence. We've started with this fence on Bridge Street. The city put these steel fence up. We'd like to see a steel fence put up. And one of the reasons is that when you are having people that are walking out of your store and walking to a sidewalk, if you have a solid fence rather than a posted rail fence where people can easily crawl through, you have better crowd control and you have more safety. And I'm also interested in this bus shelter, that it would be in good close proximity when you come straight out of the store from the front door. People would have to go straight ahead and not weave their way down the driveway to get to where the bus shelter would be, if you could do that, if you could consider that also. So these are, you know, and a big issue, I think, and it's kind of a personal issue, but I'm going to mention it. It seems silly. The restroom in that Demoulas supermarket, you have to go by the deli department. You have to sometimes climb over boxes to be able to use the restroom. Now, I'm sure you're going to take care of all these kind of things, but I'm just in case you're not, I want to mention it ahead of time. We don't want you to have to keep on writing and doing your plans over and over again, but it would be nice to have nice new restrooms too in a store, and I'm sure you're going to do that. If you had too many parking spaces by what the law asks for, if you could give up a couple so that you could have that clear, or a single one, so you could have clear access to your ramp and your bus shelter, we'd appreciate it. If you had space on either side of it so that you could have a little bit more green space, give up 3 parking spaces and let one of them be part of a walkway to get to a bus shelter.
We've got, as Kevin had mentioned, we have 2 linear walkways coming basically right to the 2 doors. You come to the building and you're going to need to take a little bit of a turn to get there, but it's...
Could you come a little bit closer, please?
Mr. Gauthier, could you hold on for a minute? Basically, the questions that you're asking him now go along our purview of our meeting this evening. I know your neighborhood already had a meeting with him. You're trying to have another meeting with them again. Basically, this is just for preliminary. It's not getting into site plan. So all the questions that you have him, I think can be done in a meeting with you and them together and not during us here for a preliminary hearing. I know those other personal questions you have. I know some of the questions that you're asking are not even covered by site plan approval. So basically, I just gave you the opportunity to address us, not him, us, for your comment in regards to the preliminary plan. Okay, thank you, sir. So if you have any more questions you want to address to me or the chair, you can. Any dialogue you want to have with him in the future, you're free to do so.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to wrap this up. If we could have a meeting or an opportunity for a couple of meetings, we'd really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman.
Anybody else have any comments on the plan, on the preliminary plan? If not, we wish you well on your project.
Mr.
Good luck.
Chairman,
Yes,
Mr.
I'm
Chairman,
sorry,
can I
Mr.
just,
Chair,
just
I'm sorry.
one thing?
I apologize.
Just for something to consider before you come back before us, only because I'm still somewhat a little concerned with the egress of the drive-through window, drive-through exit. I mean, I like the idea, there's 3 curb cuts, you're taking it down to 2 major curb cuts, but there's still a third one. Again, if from a traffic engineering standpoint, if you could take a look at where that is on the crest of that location, and we just mentioned, when you talked about, what's perfect for the drive-through, elderly, people that might be handicapped, mothers with families, and I just, that could be a real bad spot to be pulling out of. And I don't know if you could circulate them back into the queuing area that you have to exit, just the 2 curb cuts that you have. But if you could just take a look at that, and when you come back to us, but the more I look at that, the more I have more and more concerns about it. So if you could focus on that, I appreciate it.
Any further comments from the board members? Hearing none? Thank you and wish you well. Good luck. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Good luck. Wish you well. Moving along, the next project we have is 117 Marginal Street. If you have something you want to set up, you can set that up if you'd like. While you're setting up, I'll wait a minute before I read the advertisement. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, under old business, we have 117 Marginal Street. The board will review a request by Appraisal Development Corporation to accept a minor change to the site plan approval for the University Student Housing Project located at the above address. The project was approved during planning board meeting, which was scheduled on June 18th, 2007, with 10 conditions. The developer is proposing to develop the project in multiple phases over time rather than develop the project entirely in a single phase. The board will review and decide if the alteration warrants a minor change and amendment to the existing site plan approval, or if the project phasing constitutes a substantial change and should proceed through a full hearing process. Now, we hear the case for the applicant, please.
Mr. Chairman, James Flood, 81 Bridge Street. It was about a year ago when I was here before this board when we came in with our original request. At that time, we were dealing with the university, and we had a proposal where we had, I think it was 1,128 beds. And everything that we submitted at that time was based on that figure. Just recently, the university came out with a request for proposal and reduced the number of beds to 400. So it's a little difference in size, and Brassi responded and were successful in obtaining the bid. what we're doing is, it's like a phased development. Hopefully, the university is going to require more beds, and I think they will in the future, where we extend the existing building. But the building as designed is the same building that we were in front of you before with. It's in the same location. There are some minor changes that Jack will explain on the fire lane, but basically it's the same thing, but it's been reduced in half because that's what the university wants at this point in time. But everything, the traffic flow is the same piece of property. As a matter of fact, we have more than enough parking now. We had to get a variance before. So let Jack explain everything, and hopefully you'll find that it's a minor change, and let us proceed at this point.
My name is Jack Luigi. I'm from Dana Perkins' office, and this is the plan that was approved. This shows the whole, basically, the area next to the railroad tracks as being occupied by the proposed student housing building. And the whole site basically was covered with pavement for proposed parking spaces. The difference now between what was approved and what we have is they're proposing to phase the construction. So they're asking to build, basically build half of the building now. This half would remain a grassed area. Wouldn't have any building on it at this point. The amount of parking spaces has been reduced. As you can see, there's green space here now that wasn't there before. Three of the conditions of approval were that we get the approval from the city engineer, the fire department, and wastewater. We had recently had a meeting with wastewater. We've had a couple of meetings with city engineer, and I believe someone met with the fire department. So, we're in the process of doing that. But one of the minor changes that we have made as a result of the meeting that we had with the city engineer and wastewater is to construct this fire lane that's going to go around the back of the building and have collapsible bollards, so that it's a different, there won't be common access for cars. There will be pedestrian access, and the fire department, will be able to get access there if there's an emergency. And this is going to be constructed of gravel and stone dust now, whereas before it was proposed to be paved. So we're trying to reduce the amount of pavement on the site to, better facilitate the drainage system that we designed. The drainage system is exactly the same as it was then. Essentially, now there's less pavement going into that drainage system, and so, the system would have more capacity. It would allow for more runoff to go into it. And I think that's basically it. There's a minor change to the shape of the footprint, as you can see. The reduction in the size because of the phasing. And I think that was it. We did add fencing. The university requested 12-foot high fencing along the railroad tracks with privacy slats. So we did that. But I think that's basically the change.
Jack, could I just ask you to show us the visual one you have on the floor there and show us which portion, the colored ones down here? The white ones you have down here?
Okay.
Show us what portions will be built and the ones that would hold off to the second phase.
Yeah, basically this shows that half of the building.
We get a better picture of the... So as of now, that's the whole complete project that we've approved?
No, this is
Okay.
This is half the building, if you will.
Okay, I got you.
This is where the other half of the building would go in the second phase.
Okay.
So, and this is the South Campus parking lot now. This is actually a photograph. You can see that they superimposed the proposed building and parking onto an existing photograph. But that's what the parking would look like, that's what the building would look like, and this is all grassed area for where the second phase would be.
That'll just stay grass area, that second, right there where that green is we talked about now?
Right, until, such time as the university requested more beds.
And obviously, the most important thing, you're going to have the access over the railroad tracks in the back there.
Right.
On phase one.
This
you couldn't get to it until phase two was done.
Exactly right. This shows the...
And that's the important thing. I remember that was a big consideration of the whole plan was that. Okay, thank you. I got you.
This shows the proposed bridge across the railroad. This is looking from the South Campus side. So this is basically what you would see from the South Campus parking lot.
Now, let me just, on getting on that, I know when we approved it to begin with, one of the question was, we were moving that easement, correct? It wasn't gonna be the exact same spot where it is now, and you had to get permission from the railroad to do so?
And they're still working, they're close.
Yeah, 'cause I remember you said it takes a period of time, so I was just
It's one of the
curious.
conditions. They're close.
I remember you said that takes a while to have it moved, and I think that
Right.
was really very important, so you don't have all those students go backing out through the streets instead of just
Right.
walking over the bridge.
Yeah, they're in discussions with the railroad right now.
I know that was a big hurdle that Mr. Flood said last time, will take a while to get
Right.
through the railroad bump.
They're close.
Okay.
They're very close.
Mr. Fischett?
Mr. Chairman, Jack, I hate to ask you this, I know you're struggling with the easel, but if you could get back to the picture underneath there.
The site plan or this other
The other
rendering?
Yeah, just because visually, this really looks nice with the line of trees, but I understand if you show us the other plan, that's not what you have in there, so I just...
The site plan?
Yeah, the
yes.
site plan.
Because I really like that line of trees. I mean, that really
Yeah, that
visually
looks-
is
Yeah.
nice, but that's not what's on the plan there.
Right.
I think that's a condition though, Jerry, I think, of approval.
What, landscaping or?
Landscaping, right.
Number 4?
I don't know if the
10.
architect had my plan when he was doing that.
Mr. Flood, was that number 4 in the previous
But
approval?
I just want to make sure we know which one we're
I
talking
agree. It
about,
looks
because
great.
that looks great.
Yeah.
That really does.
And we have the proposed landscape plan. We could certainly revise that so that we could put the trees along the railroad, more trees along the railroad than we're showing. We can
But
reposition
I
the
like
ones
what's
that we had.
dissecting the parking area. That's, this entire line of trees here that we're looking at,
Oh, I see.
which is really...
Yeah, he didn't have my
Very
plan when he did
That
that.
looks...
In the nice, it
That
does.
really looks nice.
Yeah, we had showed, I think that was one of the revisions that we actually did. We did show some breaking up of the parking
Oh, no, I'm
rows.
sorry, Tom.
Because if anybody at home is looking at this, that's not what's the site plan.
Right.
Yeah, number 4,
You're
Tom,
absolutely
you're
right.
correct, yeah.
Yeah.
But that really looks attractive. I mean, I like the way that lays out. Is that possible to put into the site plan,
Yeah,
or is that...
I think we could, that we could definitely put the strip in there.
I think, Jack, on the condition last time, by looking them over, we had the benefit of Aaron giving us the copy of the conditions we approved last time, and by looking at the conditions, we did have number 4, which was the applicant would work with Division Plan and Development for the final landscaping and lighting plan.
Yep.
So if we could have some input on that, or, I mean, Jerry, any conditions we like on that landscape, we could pass them along to Aaron. I'm sure he could-
Planning and development, yeah.
Yeah, let them know what our
That's where
concerns
it
is, but
belongs, yeah,
obviously that
right
looks
there.
nice.
Yeah, I think that,
And
visually-
we can do that without losing a parking space.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Anything else, Mr.
That's
Fischett?
nice.
No? Mr. Lockhart?
I was a little confused over what you said about the collapsible bollards
Right.
and what, could you just go
They-
through that
it's-
again? I'm sorry. I didn't-
They're bollards that the fire department can drive right over. They'll collapse
So
when
they're
they...
gonna go out along the front of the drive?
Right, well, I have them
Emergency fire
shown
lane. For the fire
Yeah,
lane.
for
yeah.
the fire lane.
Right.
across the fire lane here
So like the car-
and across the fire lane here.
Okay.
So the fire department's really the only vehicular access to that lane.
Okay, and that's a change from the original submission?
Right.
Okay. That's all I have.
And one of those was the review, the approval by the fire department as
Right.
well, with what condition we put on.
I think they were looking
Number
for
7.
that.
Right.
Okay, anything else? Rich?
Oh, just, you talk about phasing it. Is there any discussion as to how long that might look like that? It's more of a curiosity.
It's
than anything.
kind of up to the...
Mr. Lockhart, it depends on the university, and I think they have decided they're going to look for more dorm rooms, when they ask for more dorm rooms. But we
Yeah,
don't
makes
know
sense.
at this point in time.
Makes sense, yeah. All right, that's all I have.
Mr. Claremont?
Just following up on the point Mr. Lockhart raised on the collapsible bollards, that's for access to the fire lane only, correct?
Correct.
And that won't be accessed by anybody other than the fire trucks.
Right.
I'm just wondering, those collapsible bollards seem to
Yeah,
collapse
some-
pretty easily, and
Some of
people
them,
can,
I was...
if there's any reason for someone to drive over them to get to the back of that building, they will.
Yes. You're
So
right.
I'm wondering if that's the best way to go. Sometimes they have
A
you know,
gate.
some sort of a lock gate that they have a key to or access to. But I'd leave that to the fire department,
I
whatever.
think I'd like to defer that question to the builder.
If you could just come to the microphone, sir, because they don't pick it up at home when they're watching, thank you, I appreciate it.
Jim McCletchy, Brazzi Development. There's actually 24-hour security on the premises too, so, you know, these will all be students, and I'm sure that they'll limit the access. There'll be exterior cameras to make sure nobody parks in any of those areas.
See, what we've had in the past, when we had an issue like that, is basically if the fire department comes up, and whether it be a chained or fence gated, they just cut it with the bolt cutters and they go right through.
Right.
So, I mean, whichever they feel comfortable with. I know that before, I had a question a long time ago, how do they get in? The fire department says, don't worry about us, we'll get in. I mean, they have it right on the truck, just cut it, and they'll go right, you know, if it's a regular bolt or chain. So whatever they feel is, I think the question is, just trying to get down so students don't start driving around the back there, obviously.
It's in front of the fire department now. Whatever they want, we'll put there.
Right.
But I mean, you know, so their access, I know that they've told us in the past, you know, we can get there if they feel comfortable with that, Jack, you know, where they want to knock it down on gated with the, you know, because you send a fire truck out there, they're not going to spend time looking for keys. So we just know it's going to be a cut or breakthrough.
They do have some radio-controlled sensors in the trucks that
Oh, they
trigger
do
the
now?
gate
Oh,
mechanism,
okay.
so.
Yeah, so I mean,
you know,
whatever's
maybe they'll ask
easiest
somewhere.
access, I know they've cut them before, but it's just the main thing for the access, so you don't have students back there, so the attendants, if the fire department has to go back there, they have the access.
I think that was
Two-way.
all handled in condition number 6. I think
Right.
the
We could get
idea
the
was
fire
to make
department conditional, right.
pedestrian-friendly back there. But it also says that the details of that design shall be reviewed and approved by DPT design planner and associate planner. So once the fire department gives us an idea what they want, it has to come back to Aaron anyways for his review, so.
And if you have any question on that, would come back before us if we
Yeah,
have concerns.
there's a question, yeah.
So the other question is, you're just going to phase it in, so obviously, all the previous, the approval with the previous conditions that we made,
We'll stay.
those are still going to stay. You're not asking for any of
No.
those to be changed, am I
Nope.
correct, Mr. Flood?
Nope.
So it's just a matter of building a phase of it, and then building the other phase when the need for the housing comes up?
Correct.
Okay. So everything else will stay the same, maybe the landscape might get more beautified, hopefully, and, okay, any further questions?
No, I have none.
None? I have no further questions either. What's the wish of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we find that this plan is a minor change to the original site plan and that it be adopted with the original 10 conditions that we put on.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made in favor and second, all voting in favor, say aye.
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 Chair votes yes, so the vote carries with 4 in favor, 0 against, and 1 absent. Good luck.
Nice project, nice project.
Mr. Flood, just as, Mr. McCletchy, just by the way, if this gets approved, when they think they'll start doing the development, out of curiosity? No, I'm just saying, I just asked, how long will they start developing on it, says he? I know they've been, universities over, they've been looking for housing for a long period of time, I'm just curious how soon they'd start working on it. Okay, thank you.
We should also incorporate into the vote that our acceptance that be done in phases, in addition to it being a minor change. So I'll add that as well to the vote, if that's all right, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Mr. Flood?
Phases.
Can I just have your attention for a second?
We're just going to add the point that it can be done in phases, in addition to it being a minor change, that it's permissible to do it in phases. Make that as
So we're
part
going to
of the
make
vote.
that as a new condition as a result of tonight's vote? That'll be in, okay. That acceptable to all board members?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That way that comes in as a minor change plus it's condition this evening. Okay. Thank you. Good luck. Moving along, under old business, let's see. We have 1519-1527 Middlesex Street. The board will review a request by Kevin Decker, Property Management, for the Commons condominium located at 1541 Middlesex Street on behalf of the Commons Condominium Trust in order to determine the condition of site plan approval is being properly met. The condition in question requires the applicant to use their best effort to screen the building and mechanical equipment on the roof of the building from the condominium building. The board will determine if the applicant has satisfied, the intent of the condition of approval. May we hear the case from the applicant, please?
Good evening. My name's Kevin Decker. I'm with Riney Management. I'm here with Helen Dolan, who is a trustee for the Commons condominiums at 1541 Middlesex Street. We met with site plan review on January 7th pertaining to some screening issues on the property that is being developed at 1527 Middlesex Street as a 10-unit retail building that abuts our property. There's approximately about a 10-foot gap between the back of our decks and the building that is being constructed on the property. So one of the concerns we had was the owner had agreed to do some screening to the back of the building. We had some differences in what we agreed as proper screening, and the condition that was set on that night was that the owner of the property would continue to meet with us and discuss what we wanted for screening. I just want to add that the building owner came to us and said, we will put concrete block and paint it. Well, this is about a 10-foot high building immediately abutting the residential property, and we felt that the concrete block was an unacceptable buffer on the property as far as a view from the 33-unit condominium complex. At that point, the communications broke down, and the reason I'm here, I met with Aaron to discuss what we should do next, and the communications broke down between us and the property owner. They didn't want to talk any further about it, so we called this hearing tonight, and as of 4 o'clock this afternoon, we have reached an agreement with the property owner. So, 11th hour, things come forward.
Which comes to shove?
He chose to meet with us. So I am unsure if the conditions or the agreement that we met should be brought forth to you. So if you'd like, I can.
Sure, we'll hear you on what they told us. Sure.
Let you know what they are.
Yeah, because that way we can follow through on the condition. And like to see whatever your compromise is.
And that's what I'd like to.
If I remember correctly, I think Ms. Dolan is the one who got affected by it the most, and she's the one who spoke. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's
the last
correct.
meeting. I mean, we've asked you a lot of questions at night and asked which was the best way to give you your relief that you're requesting. Okay. Go ahead, please, sir.
We have agreed at this point that the rear of the building will be vinyl sided in a color approved by the trustees of the Commons. As compared to looking at the brick, we're going to agree that we will look at vinyl siding that'll match a color that's acceptable. It's a little more attractive. They're currently, just so you understand, there's currently about an 8-foot high chain link fence that's in between the building and our property. So the next condition we've agreed to is that the existing fence will be removed at the expense of the condominium, being that we see that's fair, and to be connected, the ends of that to be connected to the back corners of his building, so it is now no longer a 1-foot gap between our fence and his building, which would just create an area for garbage and leaves, and it aesthetically just wouldn't look right. So now we'll be looking at a clean view of siding instead of a fence. The construction behind the building will be cleaned up, and gravel placed behind the building by Naaman's contractors was agreed to, and the condominium agrees to keep the area clean by its landscapers and maintain the annual maintenance of it. Obviously, we will grant access to them if they need to access their rooftop and what have you. All mechanical systems on the rooftop of the building will be screened on all 3 sides, visible to the Commons, as requested in the prior site plan review meeting by the planning board. I think you have that as a condition. Yeah. Those 3 items satisfy the condominium, and Helen is one who, as you expressed, is looking directly at all this as one of the trustees. So they all agreed that this is an acceptable condition. We just want to make sure it's followed through on, and I don't know if that can be put as a condition for this meeting.
We'd have to bring them back and open up to see if they'd accept that. But what we could do is, any communication you have with them, agreeing that those be the conditions, if you could forward a copy of that to us?
Yep. I have a copy here tonight, several copies of the signed agreement. I can forward, the...
Sure, whatever you communicate. If you can give it there for the time being, anything that you agreed to, you can send to us by way of Aaron, and then we'll pick up on that.
You prefer I send it outside of this meeting? Send it to you? Well, I mean, I have a copy.
Yeah, I don't know. Does the copy say that people have agreed to it, or is this something you proposed to him, and then he finally said okay to you on the phone, or how did?
Yeah, no, I met with him today
Okay.
at 4 o'clock.
I wasn't sure if it was.
We actually met on June 9th, and, you know, he said, I agree to it, but, you know, I don't need to put it in writing. Well,
I hear you.
in a perfect world. So, you know, I met with him today, because I told him we're going into this meeting, and, you know, we
agreed, okay.
needed this, so he just wanted it resolved. And, you know, we didn't strong arm or anything, you know, it was a mutual agreement, and he's okay with doing this.
Okay, so if you want, you can give us a copy of that. We'll put it into the minutes tonight that when this matter came before us, you gave us your dissertation of what happens, and then that you and the applicant have agreed to those conditions.
Okay.
And then if there's a problem in the future, since we have that, you know, that they would do their best efforts to screen it, we can use that to follow back on in our regular condition. And then if we feel that meets our regular condition and there's no further problems, then they'll be fine. If there's parts that do not meet that condition, we can always come back again, we'll look at it, and we'll look at that document to see what did get accomplished and what did not. And then if we have to make another vote, and if we have to bring the applicant back in here, we can do so, and have all parties here, then we'll make a vote right on the record, whether we want to amend one of the conditions.
Very good, that's,
Okay, so if you want to give us a copy of that, at least we'll have that, and they'll go in as part of tonight's meeting, and part of our minutes. And then if we have problems in the future, let us know.
fair enough.
Okay, so if you want
Thank
to give us a copy of that, so hopefully it works out. I mean, I know it takes a little bit of, yeah. 'Cause I do remember, you know, we tried to do as much as we can to take care of Ms. Dolan, because we said it definitely affects her more than anybody else. And I remember looking at the visual pictures we had here and everything else, and they're like, yeah, we'll take care of it, you know. But like I say, it's one thing to happen here, and then you go out and then try to follow through with it and get it up, but it's nice to have something in writing, so hopefully it'll be followed through.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good.
If you want to approach, we can give that to Aaron, if you mind, Aaron, and we'll just put that on in the minutes. And yeah, keep one for yourself, and if anything else comes down, you can always mail it into him, so we'll have it for the record, okay? Good luck. Okay. You're welcome, ma'am. Wish you well. Okay? So that takes care of that old business. Moving along, we have other businesses. We do have some notices from abutting towns. And I see, Aaron, on one of the things with the Hamilton Canal project, they have a problem with that, one of the little bridges, huh?
Yeah, I think there was a little structural issue, but I don't think it's anything they can get around. It just changes their permitting.
Yeah. And then the other comments are basically from the other cities and towns. Entertain a motion to place that on file.
Make a motion to place the notices from abutting towns on file.
Motion's made and...
Second that, Mr.
Second,
Chairman.
all in favor, say aye. The matter carries. We have no zoning board of appeal meeting notices tonight because we had the last meeting on a Thursday. So that, we took care of that business at the last meeting. Any further general comments or any comments from planning board members or from Division of Planning and Development? Any further comments? No?
No, there's nothing on deck for the 21st, although I think we heard tonight that Market Basket would be trying to file.
Yeah, if they come in on that, that'll be a big one, I mean,
Yeah.
because it'd be amazing to see how they keep that open and still do the development, huh?
that's- but
That's
it's
kind of,
Yeah,
that's tough.
They have a very ambitious phasing schedule, but I don't think, feel they
Yeah,
can
I
do
mean,
it.
you know,
so
I
it
mean,
makes
it's nice to
sense.
try to get all that work done and still keep business.
Yeah, I
But
think the
it'd be
concern
interesting.
is they really feel like they need to stay open to keep their customer base, that if they close.
They might lose them.
That, you know, that even the 6-month period they could lose part of that, so.
Okay, so hearing no further comments, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned, good night, and thank you, everyone. Have a good night.